So I'm Marta Salogni. I'm an engineer, mixer and producer, and composer with tapes. So I've had the honor of working with a lot of artists that I really respect, including Björk, Iver, Holly Herndon. So today we'll explore composing with tapes and an electronic instrument, in this case the Buchla, and we see the interaction between the tapes. Because I like the analog world because it allows me to not look at the screen and actually work with my hand. Hello everyone. Composing with tape. So why tapes? For me, tapes are musical instruments. So I like considering them musical instrument because they're not only a means of recording, which is how we often just see them as, multi-track recording or, reel-to-reel. So working in a studio, I was really fascinated by the machine per se. To me, very calming motion, and somehow, especially when making music, I don't feel too engaged looking at the screen. I need something manual to engage with, to actually have a break from this hyper reality we put ourselves in. And so I started trying to play around with tapes in a way that I wasn't supposed to. Kind of like a fun experimentation I started pursuing, and I realized they're sometimes very underrated as instruments, especially when you have a source, another instrument to play with and jam together. They can create very unusual and different scenarios that we can't really replicate with anything else. We're going to see how to create delays or how to create loops, but not just delays and loops. They've got something different. Just intrinsically different. And my instruments will be these tapes, and Tom here will play the Buchla. And so let's see. This was my very first tape machine that I bought, and it's a PR99, a Revox. Let's say that it's the most professional out of the three, XLRs and very speed. So what's special about the very speed, we'll see how with the Buchla, we're going to make some sounds, and we're going to create counter rhythms with the delays of the tape machine. And with the very speed, that means we can change effectively the speed of the tape. You'll see it going faster. A different speed of 15 and 7.5 IPS. And so these will determine how fast the repeats will be. And not only the repeats, but the tonality of the tape will be different. We have a more high fidelity option, which is the 15, where the tape runs faster, so it reproduces sounds with more fidelity, let's say more high-end. And then we got the slower ones, which I really like because of the warmth that it has. So we'll explore all that in a second. And in terms of the setup here, I've got a desk, got the Buchla coming in to channel, then we got the PR99 as a send, as a stereo send, and then we've got these other two tape machines. And this is something which I was experimenting with one day in the studio. I thought, I like looping, but what if I put another tape machine and then I use that in record and then in playback? And then I realized what happens is you have a delay, but it's a very long delay. So all this physical space that the tape has to travel, actually replicating in what we're going to hear back. So let's say we'll hear a note, and then after, depending how far apart they are, we'll hear it back after 5 seconds. It depends on on how far apart they are. And then when we feed them back onto each other, then they're going to start creating polyrhythms. And this kind of unexpected way of, shouting sound back at you that I find very refreshing. So everything can go wrong at any minute. And I think that was what I like about this tape machine. For example, right now, I'm running this in mono because for some reason, the other channel doesn't work. It just decided, oh well, today not. So it's a weird relationship, and it's a relationship that is quite, they're temperamental, and they're quite humane in a way that I quite like. And that's without the tape. So to me, it just adds this new level, of depth, of sounds, both as a processing, but also as something very interactive to play with. And ultimately, quite simple, 4 cables and a few options, but it has this just a natural quality to it. So what we were doing, we were basically running at the lowest speed, like the lowest speed possible, and feeding it back onto itself, so creating more repeats than we originally have. And then at this point, when we are feeding it back so much, everything that we do between volume and the EQ on the return will have an impact on how it sounds. So to give it that kind of fizzy element to it, then I add high frequencies of the return on the actual machine, and that will make it behave in different ways. So, and adding low frequency will make it feedback in different ways. It will have more of a rumble, like it will pick up more of the lower frequency, and it will start creating rhythms with those. Then if we want instead something which is more muted, obviously we roll off the high frequencies, and we can create a whole set just using these and the Buchla. And let's see, the other tape machine, that's a quite interesting one, and it's the most temperamental one. I call it the maze because it's a bit of a maze for me to set it up and actually use it. But so how it works, you would hear Tom playing some short notes, and then we see how long it'll take to come back. So you stop playing now, right? So what we were hearing was basically an interaction between the Buchla and the tapes, Zachary catching what Tom was playing and then playing it back with a longer delay. And so, you know, when you're playing, especially, you know, experimenting, I've got a lot of experimenting. I do a lot of experimenting on my own. And it's really nice to have, do it with something which plays something back at you, but you don't know when, you don't know how it's gonna sound. It's having this interaction with machines, ultimately treating them a bit like that human element to it. But we can carry on doing that, and I'll show you then now how we can cross-feed back these two machines onto each other, and then creating more, even more interesting worlds. The pulse. different speed will have different rhythms. And that's, if a mistake happens just like now, this is gonna just catch it and replicate it. So there is no way out. Now we're running a 7.5 with very speed. That's 15. That's without the Buchla. It will eventually delete itself. Maybe. So I'm feeding back the Buchla to these tapes. And then feeding back the tapes onto themselves. So it will take a long time for it to actually extinguish. Okay, there we go, finally. No, it's fun. I mean, that's the bottom line. And so this was, let's say that this was the most fun part. The part which is quite tricky is how to get to this, which is editing, tape editing block. Sticky tape, Razorblade. So I don't know if in the room there is anyone who's got a history of recording back in the days, but I'm sure you're very familiar with those elements. For people that are not, which is very common as well, basically the way it works, I'll leave that running. So I'll show you. I'll rewind this. It consists in physically cutting the tape and then joining it back together. When you put it, you can put it around any figure, like putting it around a mic stand. You can put it around, if you have a bottle, whatever that can keep the tension of the tape. You can have a tape loop running around it. So there are like amazing stories of people back in the days, and when tape was the only technology available to record, like rooms full of tape loops and going everywhere, left and right. Well, now, my point in using tapes is not just having let's say, I'm seeing the romantic side of it, but mostly is the fact that I can't achieve this with anything else. And whether that is a mixture of the relationship with, with your hands and the actual material and the process, I think is very important. It's as important as the outcome. So that's why, those are the reasons for me to use tape. And they're not machines, they can be a bit intimidating. They're not around much anymore, but you can find them, and if you use them, I think they're just very different. It's like a good experience that comes out of them. So tape, 1/4-inch tape in this case. I wouldn't suggest using old tape, because what happens with old tape, the used tape, will be too old. It will consume itself as it plays. Being a physical medium, after I don't know how many years, it will start deteriorating. And I think there is a beauty in it too. It's not infinite. So always get a new reel of tape if you want to do something safe, or getting actual sound out of your tape. And then get Razorblade. So some people will use a Razorblade for a cut and then don't use it anymore. I say that's a waste of money and resources. So you can use a Razorblade for as many times as you want, unless it becomes rusty. And we will put the tape onto the editing block. There are different editing block sizes for different tape sizes, depending on which tape you're using. And there are 3 different slopes. So this will be the crossfade that you'll do when you then join it back together on the other end. There is one which is more oblique, how do you call this? Slightly angled. And that will mean that the cut not being straight, it will be a smoother edit. So I will always go with either this one or this one, which is just a different degree of angle. And then all there is to do is to cut it. And the first time I did it, I was really scared, because it was the only copy I had of a recording that I was trying to edit. And I knew that if I was doing it wrong, then I would have to think about how to fix that. And to not have an undo button was very scary in a way, but it just makes you think differently. Makes you think like you're in the moment. You're going to do this. Yes, I'm going to do it now. Going to make a mistake? Well, don't. And to make a loop, we literally just do the same thing, choosing the same angle. Get rid of the old tape. And there you have a long piece of tape. You can join back together with sticky tape, which has got the same width as the tape. So doing this well will mean that there are no clicks once the tape edit goes through the tape machine. If a tape loop isn't done well, then we're going to hear a click. And literally like how digital editing happens. But it's an actual, it's a click because there is a gap between the 2 pieces of tape, or the sticky tape is not aligned, various reasons. So it takes a while to get used to it, to do it quickly and to do it well. It took me a long time. Still learning. But then, yes, what happens, you join these together, and I'll say magically, scientifically, it will create a loop. If you have audio on this one, the way that you would have edited it will be maybe at a bar or using a transient. A transient will be the loudest part of a sound. So when a kick drum hits, and the very first moment that the waveform happens, that's a transient. So you will hear that transient by literally putting the tape in pause and having the tape on. And literally finding the transient like that. It will be the loudest, kind of like woo, woo. And then marking it. I don't have a China graph right now, but marking it where the head is. And then there you're pulling out, seeing the marker, and then making a cut right there. And then join it back together, making sure that you have a nice crossfade, and playing it back should, hopefully, is always a bit of a bet. It should join back in the right way, and then you have a loop. That's also a great way of composing between electronic and electronic music and, how would you want to call it, tape processing. I do that quite a lot in the studio. We're just bouncing things on tape and then edited them on tape, because there are many results that will be unexpected. And that's kind of, I feel, that's what sometimes is missing in nowadays, is the unexpected and the happy accidents that make something special when you don't fully know what the result is going to be. So for everyone, don't know whether, so basically where to buy tape machines, because some tape machines obviously are old and they're not serviced. I bought tape machines that didn't work. It was terrible. These tape machines were really popular in the 70s and 80s. So they were like kind of consumer tape machine, not for studios. There are a lot of them around, a lot of them on eBay. Kind of the price range can go from £80 to 200, 300, depending how much someone will upmarket them, because I don't think you pay more than 300 for those. This one will be about £1,000, because it's a professional, XLR. But yes, how do we know they work? We need to go and try them, which is quite impossible sometimes. And I will only buy one of those if I know that it's either been serviced within a year, or it comes from someone who knows that the history of it. Because there are a lot of description that I read that they've either gets found in the attic when someone is cleaning up their dad's attic or their grandpa's attic. And they can, because they weren't done, to be used in studios, they are not, sometimes they don't last that long. The heads last quite long, but the heads are what is behind this black piece of plastic. And there'll be an erase head, a playback head, a record head, and those will be made of a material that sometimes can perish. So when we buy a tape machine, the first thing that we look at are the heads. We kind of, let's see, I can show you these. The heads will be over here. And 1, 2, 3, we need to look at them and they don't have any rust, any weird bumps and little scratches on them, because those are the most expensive thing of a tape machine. There'll be the motor and the heads. And without the motor and the heads, like the brain and the heart of the tape machine, then the tape machine can be just thrown away. It's not going to work. That's also what I suggest doing before using a tape machine all the time, is to clean it. So even the first time that we buy a tape machine from someone else's, no matter who's had it, the tape, every time that goes around, is going to dump some material on the heads. And that's what's going to cause you not be able to hear very well what's going on. You know, it's going to create a little surface of tape, you know, powder that we need to clean with cotton buds. And what's the right name? Isopropyl alcohol? Right. And isopropyl alcohol, which evaporates super fast. So you can just really give it a big scrub. And that will keep your tape machine safe and sound. There's usually sometimes, you know, you come across a bargain on eBay and you see a tape machine for 90 quid. You're like, try and get it. And if you give it a really, really, really good clean, sometimes it just comes back to life. You know, that's sometimes the luck that we have with these machines.